This is a demonstration of a racking system for the Winston Industries Collectramatic Fryer. Known as the Winston Quarter Rack, this system will help you eliminate the added step of tonging off chicken and allow you to place racked chicken right onto a sheet pan. In addition, this system can be easily used in any Winston fryer that is less than 25 years old. To get started, you will need just a few new key parts. First, you will need a basket frame or carrier, which is available in either 4 or 6 head configurations. You will also need the quarter rack shelves. Each of these shelves will hold 1 head of chicken cut in any 8 or 9 piece configuration and weighing up to 3.5 pounds. The next part you will need is a quarter rack handle. You will see that this tool is similar to the handles you use on your half racks now, but is just a bit smaller. For anyone cooking smaller products like chicken strips or fillets, we would also recommend using a set of shelf covers. These covers are designed to keep smaller items from floating away. Now you are ready to learn how to fry using the Winston Quarter Rack system. To begin your process, make sure that you dip the shelves into warm oil before using for the day. We recommend placing the racks in the bottom 3 sections of the carrier and slowly lowering the carrier into the oil. The Winston Quarter Rack system has a rail along the top of each side of the rack. When loading a full head of chicken, it is important to set each piece on the outer edges of the rack. If you attempt to place all chicken inside the rails, you may have product that gets stuck together during cooking. To load 8-cut chicken, you will start by using a chicken breast. Look at the natural curve of the breast and place on the bottom right side of the rack. The second breast will be placed just to the left of the first piece and will take up the remaining space at the bottom of the rack. Make certain that all skin is tucked under each piece and check to ensure that the pieces are overhanging slightly from the edges. Next, you will place the thighs in the top corners of each rack. Again, use the curve of the piece to allow for a bit of overhang from the sides and make sure you tuck any extra skin under the piece. The leg pieces will be placed in between each thigh and breast, sitting at the 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock positions. They may need a bit of adjustment to make sure they fit. They should have space between the other pieces without touching. The last component is the wing. The wings will be placed at the top 12 o'clock position of the rack and toward the middle. If you look at the entire rack when you have finished, you should have plenty of space in between your pieces after putting all of the chicken on the rack. If not, adjust the positioning slightly outward to fit. When the rack is full of chicken, you can slide it into the bottom shelf of the carrier. This is an example of an incorrect racking. Looking at the rack, you will notice that the chicken pieces are placed inside of the rail and the pieces are touching. To correct, you should begin spacing the pieces of chicken away from each other, allowing a bit of the product to overhang from the rack. To load 9-cut chicken, you will start by using a chicken rib. Look at the natural curve of the rib and place on the bottom right side of the rack. The second rib will be placed on the same side of the rack, but in the upper corner and allowing some space for the leg later. Make sure you tuck the skin under and begin placing the thighs in the opposite corners of the rack, again allowing a bit of overhang from the sides. Your keel is placed between the ribs and thighs at the bottom of the rack at the 6 o'clock position. The leg pieces will be placed at the left and right edges between the thighs and ribs, sitting at the 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock position. They may need a bit of adjustment to make sure they fit and to make sure there is space between all of the pieces with none of them touching. The last components are the wings. The wings will be placed at the top 12 o'clock position of the rack and towards the middle. If you look at the entire rack when finished, you should have plenty of space in between your chicken pieces. If not, adjust the positioning slightly outward to fit. When you are done, slide the rack into the bottom shelf of the carrier. As you are loading your basket, place the racks from the bottom up. Also, make sure you allow the metal tab on the rack to slide on the bottom of the basket rail so that the rack locks into place. If your chicken rubs the basket too much, adjust slightly to fit. Repeat with all racks. If you are cooking a load that is less than full, simply place an empty shelf in the first open space above the product. As you put your last shelves into the Winston quarter rack system, you may have a bit of rubbing on the product against the basket. If that does happen, adjust the chicken pieces slightly to allow better clearance. As you finish with all racks, make sure each rack is pushed back all the way and locked into place. This close-up shows how you may notice a bit of rubbing when you slide the product into the basket. A little rubbing is okay, but too much may cause product to cook onto the basket itself. If the contact with the basket is too much, pull the shelf out and adjust the pieces. Then slide the rack back into the basket to make sure all product is okay. Now that your chicken is loaded, lower the basket into the oil. If you notice any catching, simply turn the basket slightly until it drops into the oil with ease. Close and lock the lid. Now start your timer and you are frying. Your chicken is just about ready. When it reads done, turn off the timer and begin to take the chicken out of the fryer. Using the drain hook, pull the chicken out of the oil, rest into the front block, and allow the product to drain off any excess oil. When removing the racks, start with the top rack and go down. Use the Winston handle to grip the outside edge of the rack and lift up slightly to place the product onto the pan. You will be able to fit 2 heads of chicken on a half-sheet pan. If you are loading onto a full-size sheet pan, you will be able to fit 4 heads of product. Just as before, start from the top and go down. Using the Winston handle to grip the outside edge of the rack, lift up slightly and pull the rack out. Place all 4 racks on the pan. When the sheet pan is full, you are ready to load all of your chicken into your Winston CVAP holding cabinet.